Recording. Second floor corridor, 47 Marginal Road. 11:31. The door opened on its own. Hannah's hand was flat against it, and it moved inward slowly, the way a door moves when the latch releases and gravity does the rest. No sound. No mechanism audible. The crescent marked 5 above the frame caught the light from the corridor window as the door swung, and I watched the number pass through shadow and back into light, and I kept walking toward it. The objective is to cross the threshold and document what stage 2 of this node contains. Beyond the door, a staircase. Not the main staircase we used to reach the second floor, a secondary stair, narrower, stone, running upward. This building has never presented a third floor on the exterior. The roofline from the street is consistent with 2 stories. I've stood outside this building many times and looked at it and counted 2 floors. The staircase goes up. Hannah went first. I followed. The stair has no crescent marking, no numbered step indicator, no protocol guidance of any kind. 12 steps. A landing, a door at the top, already open. The room beyond is the full footprint of the building at this level, as wide as the building, as long. No internal walls, no divisions. The ceiling follows the roofline, sloping from the ridge down to both sides, the apex perhaps 4 meters above the center of the floor. Exposed timber framing. Plaster between the beams, old, uneven. The room is not empty. Along the full length of both long walls, floor to ceiling, built-in shelving. Every shelf occupied. Not box files, not ledger books. The material here is older than anything in the records room below. Bound volumes with no legible spine text, the leather dark with age. Rolled documents in wooden tubes, the tubes labeled with ink that has faded to near illegibility. Flat storage drawers at the lower sections. A long central table, the wood dark and smooth with use, running the length of the room. On the table, a single brass document frame, the same format as the frame at point 0 in the southern node below. The same dimensions, mounted at the center of the table, facing the door we came through. In the frame, a document. Hannah crossed to the table immediately. I stayed at the door for a moment and looked at the room. I want to record the observation before the examination because the examination will narrow my attention and I'll lose the wider picture. What this room looks like. A working archive. Not a sealed repository. Not an abandoned collection. The material on the shelves is organized. The volumes are upright, not slumped. The rolled documents are in their tubes, not scattered. The flat drawers are closed. Someone maintained this room or the room maintained itself. And I know from 2 years in this investigation that those are not necessarily different things. The room above 47 Marginal Road has been here the entire investigation. It was here when I first came to this building. It was here every time I was on the second floor below it. I never found a door because there was no door to find. The step 5 door appeared in stage 2 because stage 1 didn't require this room. The archive withholds access until access is earned. Hannah was reading the document in the brass frame. I crossed to the table and read it alongside her. The document is typed, same typeface as the protocol documents, the point 0 closure sheet, the Wraith Annex. The archive's typeface, I've come to think of it that way, a single consistent presentation across locations and decades. Subject, 47 Marginal Road, Stage 2. Investigators confirmed to instruction. The source record for this node is held at the origin site. Investigators who have completed convergence at this node and confirmed active status at a second node are authorized to access the origin site. Authorization is non-transferable. It is held in the investigator record, not in any document. Below the instruction, a field I've seen once before, on Rook's card in the record room below the C. Source. The coordinate is printed. Precise. A location. Hannah read it and then looked at me. She already knew there would be a coordinate here. She said nothing. She took out her notebook and wrote it down. I wrote it in mine. Then I looked at the shelves. I want to be clear that I did not have time to examine the full contents of this room, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. The shelves hold more material than two investigators can assess in the time we had. What I can record is what I examined and what I found. I went to the nearest section of shelving, the lower flat drawers on the left wall, closest to the door. The drawer pull was brass, simple, no label. I opened it. Inside, catalog cards, the same format as the cards in the southern node, the same format as the cards in the Rook record room. Rows of them, face up, in a drawer perhaps 40 centimeters wide and 60 deep. I estimated 200 cards in this drawer alone. I read the nearest cards. Subject field, location names. Status field, active, closed, pending, the same three values. Dates field, date ranges, some spanning decades, some a single year, some with no closing date. And on every card, the source field, a coordinate. Every card in this drawer has a source coordinate. I checked whether the source coordinates were consistent across cards. They were not. Different coordinates on different cards. The source field doesn't point to a single origin. It points to whatever cataloged that specific node. Each node was registered by a different location. The network has multiple cataloging points, not one central one. Or it did at some stage. The cards in this drawer may represent a period when the cataloging was distributed. The record room at Rook, which holds cards for other nodes, is one cataloging point among many. I said this to Hannah. She was at the far end of the table, reading a bound volume she'd taken from the upper shelf. She said, "Look at the dates on the source coordinates." I looked. The cards with source coordinates in multiple different locations were all old. Dates from the 1800s, from the early 1900s, from mid-century. More recent cards, dates from the 1970s onward, had source coordinates that were consistent. The same coordinate on every recent card. The network centralized its cataloging at some point in the mid-20th century. Everything cataloged after that point has the same source. I said, "That's the origin site." She said, "Yes." She closed the bound volume and replaced it precisely on the shelf. Her hands were steady. She looked at the room once more, the shelves, the table, the brass frame, and then she looked at me. She said, "We have authorization. It's in our records." The node confirmed it. I said, "Yes." She said, "The coordinate." I said, "Yes." She said, "I've known that coordinate for a long time. I want you to know that before we go. I found it in 1987, and I didn't go. I found it again in 2019, and I didn't go. I'm telling you now, because I'm not going to tell you later, and I think you deserve to know that I've been building toward this for 37 years, and I didn't want to arrive alone." She said it to the room, not to me, looking at the shelves. Then she picked up her notebook and walked toward the door, and I stood at the table with the brass frame in front of me for a moment longer. The document in the frame had one more line I hadn't read aloud. At the bottom, below the source coordinate, in the same typeface as everything else, "The origin site has your record. It has been building since you first arrived at this node. It is ready when you are. I am looking at the step 5 door from the inside, and Hannah is already on.